the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest to our online community hub and our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community, even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison. The CLF supports the ministries of those who hold target identities: Blue, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism; Trust, Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together; and Drum, Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, just to name a few. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed, even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The VUU. The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Greetings, beloved. Welcome to another episode of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, also known as the VUU or the VUU. We do miss Kiana Dene, who invented the VUU, and I love it so much. So welcome, VUU viewers or VUU viewers. It is good to be with you here this June day here as we approach the end of our 11th season of the VUU, which seems like almost unbelievable to those of us who've been on it like 9 of those seasons, right? I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino. I am 1/3 of the lead ministry team of your Church of the Larger Fellowship, and I am just pleased as punch to be here on this thunderstormy summer, almost summer day here in the Hudson Valley of New York. The land of the Kichwawan, Wappinger, and Munsee Lenape people. It is muggy. It is muggy and gross outside today, and I'm really looking forward to a line of thunderstorms coming through this afternoon. And that line of thunderstorms needs to get the hell out of the way so that I can make it to Jakaran Olaya's ordination in Georgia tomorrow. So just let those thunderstorms get through and get by, because Michael's got somewhere to be. How are you, DC?
Oh, I am okay. It's, it was one of those weird mornings where my shoes weren't tied right, and that only happened after I tried to tie my sock. So it's just, coming back to work after 2 weeks of vacation is just, I need to figure out where the coffee pot is again. I just need to get reoriented. But I am glad to be coming to you from the town of Northumberland, Pennsylvania, final home of one Joseph Priestley of our heritage, and the ancestral home of the Susquehannock people along the Susquehanna River, which is a beautiful, beautiful resource that drains into the greater Chesapeake Bay watershed. And it's muggy. It's gross and disgusting. And if it keeps up, I just might invest in getting gills or something, because it's just it's just hard to breathe. It's like trying to breathe peanut butter or something. It's gross. Anyway,
yeah.
But the weather, you know what? We don't have to shovel it. We don't have to shovel it. We don't slip on it. And
Amen.
And I'll take that. Okay. Aisha, how are things out there on the left coast?
On the left coast, I'm Aisha Hauser, pronouns are she, her, and I'm on the land of the Coast Salish people, also known as Seattle, Washington. You know what? I realized when you both were talking, we don't get humidity here. We don't get mugginess, like that thick peanut butter air. We just get cold and gray. Today it's actually nice and sunny. It's actually beautiful looking. So it's nice. It's not particularly warm. It's not freezing. I mean, it's maybe in the high 50s. I can't tell. I don't know what temperatures are. I only know like above 90 and below 40, but anything that, I'll be fine if I go out without a coat, kind of thing. But we don't get humidity ever, even when it's cold. Like it's June now. We get what's called January. So it'll be freezing. It'll be winter. We'll get a little bit of winter for a couple weeks, and then summer will be around for a couple months. And then we'll get the roller coaster of the rest of the year. So it's fun. I just go with it. It's because the thing about Seattle is it's kind of like that claw machine, like for the sun. Like when you get it, it's like you're jumping up and down, you're so happy. But usually it's just gray and you're not catching what you really want. It's a crapshoot here. Because in 5 minutes it'll change, which they say about Maine too. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. So same here. I don't know where it's steady. Where does anyone live where the weather doesn't do that? I feel like it's everywhere in the United States.
San Diego.
Where?
San Diego.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's more.
It's always sunny and about 75.
363 days of sun a year. Yeah.
Yeah, except for the 3 days that the trust retreat was there. Those were the 3 cloudy days.
No.
Yeah, I remember San Diego, but typically it's sunny and 75.
I have joked because every time I've been to Phoenix, Arizona, it has rained. In my life, I've been to Phoenix, Arizona a number of times.
Like
every
totally
time I've been there, it has rained.
Back.
Don't you think? The first time I ever went, I was 7 years old because my uncle and aunt and cousins live out there. We were visiting family. And it rained so much that the streets were flooded and the governor had a heart attack and died.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Holy
shit. Like the governor dropped dead because of the stress of the streets in Phoenix flooding.
They were related. The events were related. The governor.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Couldn't handle the stress and had a heart attack and dropped dead.
Wow.
I mean, not to be celebrated, but it was wild, and I will never forget. That was my first time in Arizona.
Jeez.
So yes, they could pay me.
We all have to be realistic about, and I think we, the collective humanity, this shit's just gonna get worse. Like we are in the midst of the climate crisis, and Mother Earth is. I mean, buckle up, buttercups. I mean, it's gonna be fucking. This is it. Like, tornadoes come out of the blue. My son is right now in Arkansas. He'll be moving soon, but he said to me, "Mom, my kid's an East Coaster. What East Coast, West Coast? Even when we lived in South America, we lived on a coast. So tornadoes is not something other than the Wizard of Oz that we even interact with." So he was freaked out. He goes, "Mom, it was just I said, Luke, and it could show up anytime,
So my husband is from Little Rock, and his parents' house was actually hit by a tornado last spring, and they're okay, and the house has been repaired. So like we can look back on it and go, oh crap, and not be in grief. But I was and of course my in-laws are both originally from Kansas, which is even funnier. And speaking of the Wizard of Oz, and
Is a move to Arkansas a move up or down or sideways if you're coming from Kansas?
it was a move. And I saw this morning a map of how what we consider Tornado Alley has shifted in the last 20 years. Like it used to be Oklahoma and Kansas.
Yep.
Right? It was Oklahoma and Kansas. And now it's Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama.
Wow.
Like it has shifted south and
That's
east.
what we need is airborne alligators. Excellent. What the hell?
But it was wild, and it's just in 20 years that the frequency of tornadoes has shifted so far.
That's fast.
Mhm.
That is fast.
I
Yikes.
love LJ Williams, our broadcast producer, is having fun with the configuration of videos
No.
today.
Yes.
we
Oh, I
we
love
love
it.
you.
Oh man, I think I saw something on the news recently about Phoenix. They're already like using ice immersion for people overheating outside.
I can only imagine.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
What's
and I'm
ice
like,
immersion? What does that mean?
June, like they put the overheated person into a large bucket of ice
Oh wow.
to bring their body temperature
Literally
down.
what you mean.
Well, you
Wow.
all were at Phoenix GA in 2012, no?
was
Neither
in
one of you were
Columbia.
there? I was there, and it was 112 degrees. And it felt like walking through the streets of Phoenix. You could feel the humidity, the moisture evaporating from your eyeballs.
Oh,
Like
my
you could actually
God.
feel the moisture evaporating from your eyeballs. So LJ says 33 poll workers died in India in the latest elections because of the heat. So yes, it's going to get worse. The extremes, it's
mhm.
the extremes are going to get worse. The hot will get hotter, and the cold will get colder, and the rainy will get rainier, and the
Dry will
the
get
dry
drier.
will get drier. It's
Wow.
yeah. Erin Marie in YouTube was in Phoenix, and we tried so hard to get people to prepare for that. Oh yes, I did. I was prepared. I had a very large water bottle that I filled up many times a day. I drank gallons of water. I was very well hydrated, and it meant I had plenty of water to evaporate from my eyeballs. It was
Like
just the
there's
wildest thing.
logistically preparation, but then there's like emotional, and I'm not sure I'm emotionally or spiritually prepared to feel evaporation from my eyeballs.
It was weird.
Yeah, that just like my eyes just squint
Well,
shut when you talked
what's
about that.
interesting about that is I would spend the times we could go to Egypt when I was growing up after I moved here as a toddler was the summer. So it was like 110 in the shade. So it's not that I'm not used to heat, like that kind of oven, but you do acclimate. Yeah, but only after it's been there a while. I mean, but coming into it, it is more startling than when you're kind of just it takes about a week and then you acclimate. I mean, it's not pleasant. I mean, I never thought it was fun or great, but it was more like, okay, this is how it is. I do want to talk about India because do you all watch John Oliver on? You can also see it on YouTube.
I don't.
The whole thing on Modi, the fascist leader, anti-Muslim, like the violence against the 200 million Muslims that live in India. It's well, it's horrific and extreme, and they're being attacked, and he's really quite awful, and it looks like he's going to win, but he's the lean toward fascism is not just for white people. That's happening in India as well. So
Well,
yeah,
and we have a CLF member who lives in India who is queer and was saying that the particular brand of Hindu nationalism that Modi has embraced is also like virulently anti-queer and
yes,
anti-woman. It's not just anti-Muslim. It's like as most fascism is. It's anti,
Everybody but us.
everybody but us. And I have been following the elections. I don't watch John Oliver, but I have been following the coverage of the elections, and many people are heartened by the fact that his majority in
Parliament,
the legislature was significantly decreased, but they still won.
I heard that he lost his majority and would have to form.
Yeah, he has to form a coalition, but there are coalition partners.
Right, but the two choices for coalition partners are absolutely deal killers on both sides, right? Like if he aligns with one side, the rest of the country wants to hang him up by his thumbs, and if he wants to align with the other side, the other half of the country wants to hang him up by his thumbs. So there's a part of me that's like, well, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
I've read that he's found a coalition. But interestingly, his party lost the elections in the place where he tore down a mosque and built a Hindu temple.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right, so it was like his signature anti-Muslim hate move.
And he's surprised that they lost it.
Well,
dumbass.
But the Hindu people voted against him there too.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like, people are not buying what he's selling, which is good.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how the fascist movement in North America evolves in the next 4 months, which is a terrifying thing to think about. 4.5, 5 months. Whoo, Lordy.
Mexico elected their first woman president.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo!
And she's a climate scientist.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Right? Yeah.
And Jewish.
I'm going to look up her name.
Yep. And Jewish.
Yep. Claudia Scheinbaum.
Yep. Could only be better if she were queer too.
She might
be.
Yeah.
We don't know. She might be. But yes, a physicist. She was a climate physicist and the former mayor of Mexico City.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff.
And she won by 30 points. It's pretty astounding.
So, hey, I just want to check in. Have we heard any more conversation around that letter that we talked about last week and the sort of call to civility and the call to don't be an ass, right? Don't be an ass at GA in that covenant letter.
There like almost 1,000 people have signed it now. Half of whom are not religious professionals, right? Half of whom are ministers and religious educators and administrators, but half of whom are lay delegates and lay leaders in Unitarian Universalism, which is really awesome. And the people who are being called out in that are not liking that they're being called out. Let's just put it that way. They are continuing their bullshit because they don't like that they're being called out. They don't like that their behavior is being and they're continuing to do things like, for example, quote Sophia Betancourt, president of the UUA, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, completely out of context. Right? So you take like one sentence from what she says, like completely out of any sort of context of what it was in. Right? She talks about covenant and the relationships that are necessary in covenant, and the fact that covenant means accountability, right? We have to hold each other to the covenant, and that it's mutual. And they take one sentence out and pretend like covenant means like some authoritarian regime is
right. She's going to throw us out.
To do. Right.
No, she's not going to throw you. I might throw you out if you continue to be a dick, but no, Sophia's not going to throw you out. She's much nicer than me.
Well, what is the thing that I'm going to ask a naive question. I know the answer. It's more rhetorical. I think there's not even what is it that folks want other than to express anxiety and fear and anger over, I don't know, anti-racism work, more black and brown people being in positions that are public and of authority. And what's been kind of for me, I mean, not that I at all pay that much attention, but when I do pay attention, I'm looking for, so what is it that you want? What is it that you want? Like, what is the there? What is it? Do you just
Mhm.
want only white people in power? Do you want us to only peripherally talk about that? Sure, racism is bad and that's it. Like, what's, and that's the thing where it's like there's no substance except to say, we don't want change.
Well, and it's like, I think what they want is that the people of color who are in power still center whiteness. Right? Like, they're okay with people of color in leadership roles as long as they're centering whiteness in their leadership.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's be right.
That is the most succinct
I'm
assessment
okay
of
with-
that I've heard so far. That's
I'm
brilliant.
okay with queer leaders as long as they center heteronormativity.
Well, I'm okay with gay people getting married as long as they use the same model that we use,
Right.
right? As long as they act straight.
Yeah, well said. Well
Wow.
said. I think
I'm going to need to think on that a minute.
at some point, one of the things that the CLF will offer, I'm going to give a plug this year, I've been thinking about the election, is every week starting in September, leading up to just a couple weeks past the election, we're going to do Be a Revolution, the book club by Joe Malua. And the way we're going to set it up is going to be not quite like, I mean, I'm hoping people get the book, but it's an invitation to read the chapters, and because what it is, it's a call to action. It's here's what people are already doing in terms of organizing, in terms of in their spaces and in their communities, and here's where you can take action. Because here's the reality. I don't give a shit if people are like, Trump is worse than Biden. Okay, and the people around Trump, and Biden's pretty terrible. There are how many anti-trans laws on the books now? And so, I mean, I'm not going to be one of those who's going to lift up Biden the person, because he's gleefully supporting this genocide. We've talked about that ad nauseum. So right now he represents fascism light, and Trump and his cronies represent full on what we've read in the history books, fascism that we can't pretend is not fascism. We can pretend this isn't fascism. There are those that do. There are very gleeful liberals that are like, we're not fascism, Biden's great. Sure. But
you're not going to get that argument from me, even if I think people should vote for him. So
yeah. Well, the thing I will say that is really that is unnerving. It's not the thing that I want folks to remember. It is not about Trump. The people around him who know to say whatever he wants to, he himself doesn't give a fuck. If the liberals cater to him, that's who he would be. He doesn't give a shit. He's saying what he needs to say because he wants the attention and the limelight. The people around him are ghouls, are hateful, people like Stephen Miller, people who are like, let's cage children, and everyone around them are clapping and saying yes. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is putting into place the many ghouls and horrific mini dictators that will come with him. That's the thing.
Like, let's Brett Kavanaugh, right? I mean, people who are going to be on the Supreme Court for the rest of their fucking lives.
Right. So, and Biden, I'm not at all. I tell people I will decide that day, because I am as an Arab, I can't stomach. I'm not going to post anything supporting Biden. People can make their own choice. He seems to want to lose. He's gleefully murdering Arabs. Gleefully. Doesn't fucking give a shit. And he said the red line was Rafah. He said, do y'all heard that? The red line was Rafah? Apparently not. So, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely come down on the side of less evil, but like, you're not going to get an argument for me that it's not also evil. It's less evil. And I live in New York State. I'm voting in New York State. If there's any possibility that New York State is going to go red in this election, the election is over. So I will say that, like, if someone in a swing state, like, wants to vote for Biden, I will vote for whoever you'd like me to in New York State in return, because I think less evil is important. I think it's like it's Ketanji Brown Jackson versus Brett Kavanaugh. Like, who would I rather on the next Supreme Court justice be? Like, that one's pretty clear to me.
Yeah, true that.
So,
did you read that Sonia Sotomayor said that there oftentimes she will go into her chambers and cry? That's where we are right now. A Supreme Court justice.
How can I be surprised by that? Like, yeah. I mean, for how long was she the only woman of color on the court? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if she went into her chambers and cried after every session,
and had a large bottle of something strong.
Let's just hope not, since she's diabetic, and that would be good for her. We wish her a long and healthy life.
Yeah, Jesus. Oh man.
So yeah, I've said many times that I didn't like Joe Biden when he was chairing the Clarence Thomas confirmation hearings. God, right? I didn't like Joe Biden when he was the senator from Capital One, or whatever MBNA, whatever corporations are headquartered in Wilmington. I wasn't particularly thrilled with him as vice president. He was my 8th choice among the Democratic field in 2020, 8th, and he is demonstrably less evil, which is just really fucking unbelievable.
Right.
Demonstrably less evil.
Can I say the president of Mexico's name is Claudia Sheinbaum, the president-elect.
Wow.
Yay.
That is an amazing name.
Amazing. Anybody know anything about okay. I'm going to say I do not know about the action of immediate witness that will be supporting Palestine, but does anyone know about it's coming up this General Assembly?
I wish that Chris were not having trouble getting on. Christina Rivera is one of the people helping with that. I've read it. I have personally endorsed it. It is being proposed by several religious leaders who I know, love, and trust, including Abi Janamachi and Katie Romano Griffin, who are ministers, and D.L. Heffler, who is also a minister and a member of Jewish Voices for Peace, a UU Jewish minister. They are trying their best. They're still working out the final wording of it, because they're trying their best to do it in accountable relationship with both Palestinian people and Jewish people, but it calls on us to take a clear moral stance on ending the genocide in Palestine, which I'm in favor of. I'm not in favor of, like, if I had to write it, I wouldn't write it exactly the same. Right? Like, I wouldn't write it, but like, I didn't write it, but I did endorse it, I will say. So we should probably get a link for people to read it.
Yeah. So I was invited with a friend to be their +1 to the Yale reunion last weekend. I have never been to Yale, like, clearly didn't attend there, but certainly never even visited. It's a beautiful campus, but at the meeting the president of Yale addressed the alumni, there were a group of students in the balcony holding up Divest, Free Palestine, the Palestinian flag. They were all wearing keffiyehs. I was so proud, and they had, it was a space that had a balcony, so they were in the balcony, so they had a big sign that said Divest, and we will not be silent. I mean, it was really so heartwarming, because, well, heartwarming. I was just proud. I was so proud that, and he just said, we're trying to bring everyone together to talk about what? can we just stop the fucking genocide? Then we could talk. I have no patience. It is super upsetting to keep hearing people say we need to talk. First, stop the fucking slaughter, and then talk. I'm gonna leave it there.
Yep.
Can I?
Wasn't there fun? Yes.
Right. I'm sorry, my brain is really scattered. I'm not trying to deflect or go other places. Just my brain remembered a thing. And there's a student here in Pennsylvania. No, not Pennsylvania, Idaho. Annabelle Jenkins. You know about her?
Who is a Unitarian Universalist youth?
Yes, who is a UU youth, who at the graduation ceremony handed a copy of The Handmaid's Tale to the superintendent, who refused to take it. So she laid it at his feet and walked off with her diploma.
And he kicked it away. Like how totally disrespectful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, but yes, she is a youth, a young adult now at the UU congregation in Boise.
Yes.
Idaho.
Yeah.
So props to our folks in Boise.
That was just one little glimmer of the kids are all right, you know.
If we can circle back to UU
yes,
Palestine.
Sorry.
The website is uupalestineaction.org. And the fourth person who is involved in proposing it, I want to make sure I credit the people who are doing this, is Lena Gardner of Blue and a delegate from the Church of the Larger Fellowship to General Assembly. So yes, it's D.L. Heffler, Lena Gardner, Katie Romano Griffin, and Adi Janamachi are the four people who've proposed this and who are working with Youth for Justice in the Middle East and other groups to iron out the final language. But you can learn all about that at uupalestineaction.org.
To the point of the youth or the young adult from Idaho, I mean, amazing. Somebody did a TikTok once. Okay, so in Seattle, in the fall, I believe this happened. In one night, Seattle police raided gay bars all over Capitol Hill. And Capitol Hill is the gay neighborhood of Seattle. I mean, everywhere is the gay neighborhood of Seattle. But like where there's the more of the clubs and the bars and the queer spaces, you know, very
the gayest neighborhood.
Huh?
The gayest neighborhood.
The gayest, like the sidewalks are all, you know, rainbow. So and I don't remember what the premise was. Maybe it was a noise. It was a clearly a bullshit premise. And the city council very much was like, "Oh, this is not happening again. Are you fucking kidding me?" But here's the thing: someone did a TikTok that I thought was so important, and I want to name here that I thought about in terms of Isabel. For people who are not used to breaking rules, start breaking them now. Start breaking little rules. So because fascism is here, even if Biden gets reelected, this is not we're here, right? It's just we're gonna have fascism light. So it'll buy us a little time. And I think, like, to the point of Isabel felt strongly, because I saw an interview with her that was so sweet. She loved the library. She read these books, and these books were getting banned without consulting the people who actually are impacted, who enjoy these books. And so she said, "I don't want the limelight. I don't want attention." She just posted that clip on TikTok, and it got 1 million views in a day. And because she moved into a space that was important to her, that is also impacting the United States and a lot of people. So in the space you're in, if let's say what's happening on the border, it's against the law to give water anyway to migrant. Do the thing, even if because the law, especially in the United States, has rarely been on the side of human rights. The law has not been correct. The law doesn't mean it's the right thing to do morally. Never. So be a revolution, like practice what we can do and hold space for each other as Unitarian Universalists is to practice not only speaking up, practice breaking rules, because most rules in the United States are predicated on genocide, on ownership of other people, on people as commodities. We do not have universal basic income. If I remind everyone, we don't have universal basic health care, universal
Mm-hmm.
healthcare. So breaking that's the thing that I think that's so amazing and beautiful about how at our best, at our being Unitarian Universalists, at our best, we do empower people to move into those spaces, to say this is wrong, this is morally wrong.
And I think, it's important to say again and again and again that morality and legality are not an overlapping Venn diagram, right?
Yes.
Right? They overlap a little bit, but morality and legality are not equivalent things. And I you know I I will say that in light of the former president's conviction on 34 felony counts, have had to remind people of that as well from the other side, right? That, like, just because someone has been convicted of a felony does not mean that what they've done is immoral. Like, he's done plenty of immoral things that he's not been convicted of felonies for, right? And, like, the amount of evil that he is doing is not in relationship to the things that he's been convicted of. I just like being convicted of a felony does not take away your inherent worth and dignity, or inherent dignity and worthiness. Um,
No, but in some
being a
states it takes
fascist
away your right
asshole
to vote.
does, right? Being a fascist asshole might diminish
Yeah.
your inherent worth and dignity, but, like, actually being convicted of, like, how many? I don't want to get too deep into it.
I
And
want
so,
to hear
like,
it. I want to hear where this is going.
I mean, we serve at the Church of the Larger Fellowship, people who are incarcerated, 1,800
Mm-hmm.
people who are incarcerated, all of whom have been convicted of something.
Yeah.
Some of whom actually did the thing that they were convicted of.
Mm-hmm.
And they are people with inherent worth and dignity, who are trying to become better people, right? They are trying to become better people through their association with CLF. Even if they weren't bad people to begin with, they're trying to become better people. And I just, like, if we're breaking rules, we can't say, well, I'll only break the rules that are a little bit illegal. And I'll only, you have to judge the rules based on their morality. Is what I'm saying, and not on their legality.
The other thing that upset was kind of like this gleefulness around his conviction is that continues to perpetrate this idea that he's singular, that the problem is him.
Right.
He is a manifestation of this society. Somebody, clearly I'm on TikTok a significant amount of time. Somebody said, what, somebody commented on a video, why don't we have a decent choice, and we being the United States, for president? And the response was perfect by this person: because we're not a decent country. We're not a decent country. So we don't have decency. Takes second seat, third, fourth, fifth to violent extractive capitalism, to the idea that we live in this binary of good and bad. So first of all, the sickest part of him getting convicted of 34 counts is it's not going to make a difference. He can still run for president. So the layers of fuckery is beyond the but the problem with focusing on him is it lets this country off the hook that he's not the part of a teeny tiny tip of the iceberg of ghoulish doom that has run this country for over 400 years. So that's the thing that bothers me. And I so appreciated, Michael, your posts reminding folks, like, hey, I'm a prison abolitionist too. I don't celebrate when people because all we're doing is perpetrating a system. And even if it's against someone we think is our enemy, then we're still propping up that system. And the problem is much, much bigger. It is this idea of a binary, it's idea of an us and them that helps prop up the system. The other thing that it's gonna be a one-off in the fall. I just wrote this in our little spreadsheet of what we're offering yesterday, so that's why it's on my mind. How do we not other? How do we not become what we hate? And we're gonna have one workshop. I think I chose September. I don't remember what date I picked. That the Church of Larger Fellowship is going to sponsor. That let's have how do we not become what we hate? And I think, Michael, when I saw you posted on social media, I was like, there's I adore you for so many reasons. And it was so important because what we don't want to do is buy into the system that we want to abolish. We don't want to become what we rail against, what we have to dismantle.
Like, there's a part of my heart that wouldn't mind if he were the last person left in prison. But, let's abolish all the other prisons first. But no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So let's not become what we hate.
Yeah. 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 We have to find new models for accountability, but damned if I know what they are.
Well, and it's like, let's bring this home to theology. I'm an ultra universalist, right? So I believe that all people are ultimately reconciled with the love that's in the universe, because the love that's in the universe is greater than we can possibly imagine it to be.
Okay.
All right. Like, you call it God, don't call it God, whatever it is. I believe that all people are ultimately and immediately reconciled with that love, because to imagine that the love in the universe needs revenge or punishment doesn't fly with my theology. Right. So, like, needing revenge and punishment doesn't fly with my theology. Even, like, it might be human, right? I might feel it, right?
Okay.
I'm not going to doubt that. Like, I'm not going to deny that. Like, I feel that. Like, I'd like some revenge. I'm like, I'd like to see him punished.
Really want to smack somebody with a stick.
That's right. Yeah. Can we lock him up just for a little while? Just
big stick.
He feels it.
Maybe with nails. Yeah.
And like, I have to be called by my theology to something better.
Okay.
I have to be called by my theology to something better.
How about this? This might be splitting hairs. I'm an ultra universalist as well. In that I believe that when our whatever it is that is our souls depart our physical bodies, that it's all washed clean, right? Mm-hmm. It's all washed clean, whatever that looks like, whether you call it heaven, whether you call it sort of a Buddhist reincarnation thing, like it's all gone, right? But until then, I got some shit I need back. Like, until then, what does accountability look like? Like, okay, that's God's business, right? But right here, right now, we need to keep somebody from doing further harm.
And I think that revenge and punishment are separate from accountability. I think we have to imagine what actual accountability. And I think it's why, like, let's bring it back to Article 2. Oh, right? Like, when people are railing against accountability being part of our faith, they think they're going to be punished for doing things that are not in keeping with our covenant. They are fearing punishment and ostracization, and that's not what accountability to covenant is either.
Okay.
Right? So accountability we have to imagine accountability that does not debase us. I don't know. And like, is my imagination that big? It's not.
See, that kind of accountability, I think the resistance is that kind of accountability requires change on the part of the person who's doing the harm.
Yes.
And that's what they don't want.
It
right? So what do you do? So what do you do with somebody who refuses to change to be in covenant?
Well, okay. I'm going to look at it from a different angle. Because I was at a brick and mortar during the teach-in. I was in a room full of 50 angry white people that wanted to know why we were using the words white supremacy culture. And for as much as I worked with a mentor at the time who would remind me to see the humanity in people. And I think the thing that that I think about is how can I, as a faith leader, because I chose to be here, hold people in the fullness of their humanity I think the thing that I wonder is, can there be a space to say, you belong here. You're worthy now. You are worthy. You don't have to accept anybody as your anything. You are human. You exist. You are worthy. What did you call it? Radical universalism? What did you call it, Mike? Extreme.
Ultra
universalist.
Ultra. I love that. Ultra universalist. So when someone comes in and says, I don't like the anti-racism work the UA is doing, you're becoming, we're getting called fascists and dictate. Okay, then what would help you feel connected and whole and belonging? Well, we can't talk about this stuff. Well, then we're going to leave out the work that it takes, and we may not convince people. Then we say, this may not be the space for you, because we want to practice ultra universalism, universalist holding. I think the work that it takes is hard, and it doesn't of true accountability, and it doesn't result, I try to say, it's not that you can't be here. You may not make the choice to be here. I don't say to people you can't be here, because I don't think that's true. I think here's how we hold space. Here's the container in which we exist. Here's the container in which we hold each other. It's like when somebody said to me when the Hate Pumpkin was running the first time in 2016, and I had a board president say to me, we don't want to, I've said this before on the VUU years ago, but we don't want to turn off Trump voters. I said, I don't give a fuck how people vote. My values include not teaching children. My values include not having a Muslim ban or not. So if someone is in our UU space who says, well, I think there's a line of immigration, which don't get me started. I'm an immigrant. That's a whole nother show. And I would say that's arbitrary. Our immigration system's always been arbitrary. There's no such thing as a line. And so I know that here we will fight for immigration rights. So if someone doesn't agree with that, the answer isn't you can't be here. It's that you may not want to be here, because what we're not going to do is make space for sides. That's bullshit. There is no side I'm going to sit with that argues for incarceration, for caging children, for killing people in Gaza, for what's going on in the Congo, the Sudan, and on and on and on. That's not a both sides thing. That's saying we are supporting imperialism and violent extractive capitalism, or we're fucking not.
Yep.
I'm not making space for the conversation. Right. We're here to fight against what is harming. None of us are free until all of us are free. That's what I say. So in other words, like this rant that I'm on is to say, I try to be in the space of, here's what our values are. You can sign on or not, but to be here and fight against this is keeping us from taking down fascism, from fighting against oppression. I don't want to waste my time. Reverend Nancy McDonald-Ladd, who is now Director of Communications of the UUA, who will be, congratulations, Nancy, and Public Theology, I think was the full title. She did a sermon on fake fights. All of these are fake fights. The stuff against Article 2 is fucking fake fights. Is keeping us distracted. These accusations of what the current UUA is are distractions, and they're bullshit. Okay, now I'm done.
Please, you don't need to be done on our account. No, it's true. I mean, like, there is not, fill in the blank is less than human, right? Trans people, people of color, whatever, is not a side that we welcome in our faith.
Correct.
Yes.
Right?
If you hold that, you will not be comfortable here.
If you need to be on that side, you have chosen to be outside of my faith.
And if you choose to be here, understand that either we're going to change you or you're going to leave. Because it'll be no fun. You know?
Yeah.
Like if you come in here with some preconceived notions, some prejudices, some ideas about things, but are willing to listen and say, if you are willing to consider that I might be wrong, I might have something to learn, then we will gladly sit with you in the discomfort of your unlearning. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and hold you gently, compassionately to account, and help you do what you need to do to feel morally good again.
And you are not allowed to appeal to your right of conscience to deny someone else humanity.
Right.
You're not allowed.
No.
You're not allowed.
We're
If
not
that's
going to
your
make
right
space.
of conscience, your conscience needs some adjusting, dude.
Thank you.
Well, we're not going to make space for it's coming up for some mental gymnastics to say it's okay to harm others. That's my fucking line at 53 years old. I'm not doing that. We're not going to make because that is what the military industrial complex is all about. There's a reason why we need to decimate other countries. 1 million Iraqis were fucking murdered for nothing. That Iraq had
and 1 million Afghans too.
1 million Afghans, and the entire Afghan society has been decimated since the 70s, since Russia went in. So what we're not going to fucking do is be a faith like the fucking Catholic Church, Manifest Destiny, again, and 18 more shows. We're not going to make a space to say, here's a reason we need to fucking harm other people. At some point, humanity's got to fucking stop. That's been there is no both sides to what's going on in Gaza. There fucking isn't. There is not both sides to what's going on in Congo or Sudan. Haiti, we have a system that has centered harm of the climate. We started talking about tornadoes and extreme weather that has centered harming the climate, harming people, harming societies. So that's at some point we got to stop. I know it's scary to think that, oh my God, a gun really won't protect me. Like people used to ask my ex-husband, who was in federal law enforcement, should I buy a gun? He said, are you prepared to arm your assailant? Or unless you're prepared to kill somebody, all you're going to do is arm the person who's about to attack you. Because are you really prepared for that? And so we have this illusion that the only way to fucking safety is to harm others. Can we let go of that illusion, please? And thank you.
Are you done now?
We got 7 minutes, Aisha. Take another breath.
You got a whole other sermon left here, Aisha. You go for it.
The both sides thing, the center thing. I mean, I'm going to say something very controversial. The president of Yale, I know. The president of Yale said, we've tried to get Israelis and Palestinians at a table to talk, and it's been hard. And you know what my first thought was? Did anyone ask Jewish people to sit with the Nazis during the fucking Holocaust? Because that's what you're asking Palestinians to do right now. They're living a 76-year Nakba that hasn't ended. Read about when people now are reading Elam Papa's books and Jewish people who've deconstructed their own colonialist Zionist propaganda, their own unlearning, realize how heinous life has been for Palestinians. And so the idea that Palestinians have to come to a table and talk to people who are decimating them it's like, I can't quite wrap my mind. I can't. I literally sat there. I'm like, and I can't quite wrap my mind around this idea that we're still both siding things. There's no both sides to fascism. There's fascism and there's no fascism. What the fuck are we doing? Now I'm done.
Oh, well, 6 more minutes.
No,
it's absolutely true. And, you know, it's... there's so much I want to say in the next 6 minutes. so much. We as Unitarian Universalists claim to side with love. As if there's another choice. As if there's another choice. And
it's as radical and obvious a notion as Black Lives Matter.
Right?
Like, really? You're going to argue against that? Dumbass. Sorry, Michael.
No. I mean, it's totally, that's it. Right? And yes, I had people argue against that. And we had conversations. Honestly, we had conversations. Because the people were like, well, don't all lives matter? And I'm like, okay, so like our first principle says that. So I'm not denying it, but like all lives are not equally threatened by violence in our world right now. And so we have to like actually take a moral stance in like support of the people who are being killed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like that's what we're doing in Palestine right now, right? Mm-hmm. There are bombs that are being dropped on refugee camps. There are people blocking aid convoys.
Phosphorus? You see the white phosphorus?
Like just when I think it can't get worse, it gets worse.
Of course it does.
So, and it's, I read a story today, like dozens of people were killed, like in an aid distribution site when it was bombed. Like it's just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse if we don't stop it. So the side is humanity, right? I mean, like,
period.
That's the side.
Period. Full stop. We're fucking I can't. The man who held the torso of a fucking infant with no head, and we're still sending bombs. What the fuck? What fucking discussion do you want a Palestinian to have with an Israeli where we're talking about an entire Gaza? If you look at before and after pictures, it is layers and layers and layers and layers of horror that won't fucking stop. What the fuck? And there are people still defending this. The mental gymnastics is beyond. I can't wrap my fucking mind around starving people of all fucking ages. And when I hear somebody say, "Oh, in support of the LGBT community," oh, well, Palestinians were anti. So bombing people who are part of the gay community is okay with you? Like, I don't make it make sense. Okay. I'm gonna go meditate with my dog.
It is 12:58. We are going to engage in like a moment of spiritual centering together, shall we?
Yes, let us.
Because like my theology holds that there is a love at the center of our being that is hidden by hate, that is hidden by power, that is hidden by greed, that is hidden by indifference. And we need to unveil it. We need to unveil that love and let it power us as humanity. Because the hate and the greed and the power and the indifference and the bullshit is not doing it. And it never will. Right? The master's tools won't dismantle the master's house.
True.
Right? Let's find different tools, beloved. Let's find different tools. Let's find the tools of love.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you all. This is wow. Thank you. It never ceases to be amazing. It really doesn't.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now, or visit clfuu.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The VUU.